introing or you
I,
have an intro?
I'm gonna intro. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shaken and Disturbed. Now, usually,
Oh.
usually Daryn starts the show,
If you let
but
yourself shine, Daryn, if you just let
that's
yourself.
thank you exactly. So, guys, right before we started, did I say welcome to the show? Yeah, welcome to the
Yeah, you did.
show.
You
Daryn
introduced
was.
us. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's John and Daryn. What are you gonna do?
Fun.
Daryn was singing. We were making a little joke. We have a little banter back and forth before we hit record.
It's just a little warm up.
Just a little something. Yeah, get our voices going in a sense. And
Oh, excellent.
Daryn was singing a spoof of the song Physical by Olivia Newton-John. And she does this thing where she'll always sing, but like she'll like purposefully like make it so it's like she's not being serious. But I'm like, you can carry a tune. Like your pitch. Some people don't understand pitch. Didn't you play
Mhm.
like saxophone,
Trumpet.
trumpet?
Yeah, thank you.
By the way,
Um,
also we didn't know why Daryn couldn't hear me before we started. Turns out it's because I didn't turn my microphone on, guys. Anyway, that's
right.
neither here nor there.
And
In fact,
everyone's first thought was Daryn fucked up. And then when it's because normally it's me. Wait, John, what are you
not
drinking?
really water,
Oh, it looked like it was a
like a
slushy.
slushy. No, okay, we're all over the place at the beginning of the show, but I'll just tell you. Oh, look, you
Are
can
your
see my
nails
pretty
painted?
nails. Yeah,
Oh,
guys, you're gonna want to tune into YouTube for this one. I'm gonna just say it. We've got a lot of
you're
props
very
today.
prideful.
I am very prideful,
Very
but I want to
prideful.
say I got these reusable plastic cups from Starbucks, a pack of 5 of them with reusable straws. Guess how much I paid for them? 0, because I used 400 stars. Now, did I spend a lot of money to get there?
Yes.
That doesn't matter.
No such thing
What
as a free
matters
lunch,
is
but of course you got there.
I was told these were free and I walked out
Of
of the
course.
store with them. But back to you. You can carry a tune whether
Thank you.
you want to believe it or not. So if you allow your voice to sing, because I think here's what, by the way, guys, here's
It's
what
just
Daryn
the
will do.
way it's just the way John says it. Like he's just like believe in yourself and it just makes me laugh.
Well, I mean, seriously, okay, so say she's singing that song Physical. She'll be like, physical, physical. But I'm like, you're singing the notes. So, like, I know you can actually sing if you just let yourself sing. So, the moral of the story is to just let yourself sing. What do you think about
Let
that?
yourself shine bright is
That's
what
right.
is the ultimate God, that's
Shine bright like a
excellent.
diamond, if you will.
That's what they
You know?
say.
Yeah.
Um, but welcome to the show, everybody. Sorry, I
All
couldn't.
right.
I was having like a giggle fit before we
Yeah, I like
started, and
it.
so I just couldn't. Happy 4th of July, happy vacation weekend, happy Independence Day. It's so
Yeah.
great when the 4th of July kind of ends up smack dab kind of in the middle of the week. I think it's on a
Right.
Thursday this year, just because
Yeah.
I feel like people just take the week. People
Oh,
are
I did.
just they just
Yeah.
take the week. You know what I
Well,
mean? It's very easy, very chill.
exactly. And it is on a Thursday. We're going to release this episode as normal on the 7th because we just have a lot of episodes and we didn't want to do 2 in 4 days, frankly. So,
Yeah.
we're thinking if you guys are on your way back from vacation on the 7th and you can tune in and listen to this. Rather, honestly, it's kind of a quick episode this week too. But I kind of did that, Daryn. We're recording this earlier than July 4th, you guys, but I took all next week off. So my
Yeah,
vacation
girl.
starts Wednesday afternoon. I'm so excited. I haven't had a vacation since last year during the 4th of July. You might remember when I went to Ocean City, Maryland and won a
That's right.
Squirtle. I won a Squirtle at the boardwalk.
How could we
Um,
how could we forget? That was top
yeah.
3 best podcast records we've had.
Oh, 100%. Everyone
Yeah.
tuned in and signed up for a million Patreons after that, for sure.
Yeah, because you said Squirtle.
Because I said Squirtle. And then I
That's
took
right.
pictures of him like he was my son. It was a whole thing. I may do it again this year. I'll be in that general area this year for vacation. But yeah, I'm on vacation. So I'm so excited, you guys.
That's
And
great.
everyone's so sweet. When you disappeared for 2 weeks,
Yeah. Well, I
everyone was
wasn't on
super.
vacation. I was working really hard.
Mm,
I wasn't on
I
vacation.
think you said that
I was
you
I was
you
doing something
literally
really
said
hard and secretive. Top
uh
secret, top
I think you
secret.
actually said I quote played in the water with my brother for hours. So okay, different
Because
thing.
I was doing marine research, John.
Oh, that's right. You're a marine biologist. One last thing, and then we're going to get into this week's case. Do you like my dinosaur shirt? Yes or no? Tune in on
Yeah, I
YouTube
do
if you
like
like it.
I like it.
Do you
I
remember? Here's a quiz.
I've
Here's
seen
a
you've
pop
worn it
quiz.
before.
Do you remember where? This is a fun little trivia. You won't remember, but just thought I'd ask.
Was it at one of our live shows?
It wasn't a live show, but back when we were doing Martinis and Murder with Oxygen, if you remember, I had to do this like quick little like commercial thing for Jurassic World, and I had to
Oh,
say what
that
my
would have been a good shirt
yeah.
to wear for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I already had it. So I was like, yes, I will wear
Oh,
this dinosaur shirt. And I had to do this whole it's on my Instagram somewhere. I should find it buried deep. But I wore it and I had to talk about my favorite dinosaur. All of them. That's like picking your favorite child.
yeah,
But
for
anyway.
sure.
Anyway,
I
it was
feel
just
the
funny.
same way.
I doubt I've even worn this shirt one time since then. I actually kind of found it in a
I like
weird
it.
bag of clothes. Thank you. I got it at a thrift store. But isn't it like a great color and like cute
I just
little
love when
like
you like give me
a
a
little
little
shimmy and a
shim,
shake?
a little
Well, you guys
shim.
tune into our YouTube channel if you want to see our little shimmy and a shake. And let's get right into this week's episode
And
finally. I think we've
we'll be updating
bullshit
you
enough.
guys later this week on NMR about all of our 4th of July
That's right.
shenanigans and
Yes.
future complaints at the gym. There's just a lot going on.
Oh
Okay, let's
my
get into this
God.
week's
Let's
case.
just get into the case. Yeah.
On October 24th, 1949, Leonard and Helen Pickton welcomed their second child, Robert, into their family. The Picktons resided in British Columbia and made their living as pig farmers, which I heard pigs are like tough. I think they're so cute,
Wait, tough
but
in what way?
like
Tough on crime,
yeah,
tough
they're like street toughs,
yeah, they're
you
really
know?
strict. Yeah.
I feel like to farm they might be a little bit harder. I don't know why. They just eat a lot.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know.
also, like, isn't this such a like 1940s Americana thing? Like,
Yeah,
people these
pig
days are
farming.
bankers and stockbrokers, and
Well, they're
40s you
still
were pig
farmers. There's just
farmers.
a lot
No, I know.
less,
It's
less
true.
of them.
Yeah,
But
fair.
Helen and Leonard were extremely devoted farmers who worked virtually nonstop, as farmers
They
have to
do, yeah.
kind of do. Though they eventually sent their eldest child, a daughter named Linda, to live elsewhere, they expected their two sons, Robert and his younger brother David, to be equally as committed to hard work. Robert and David were expected to help out at the farm in addition to attending school, which meant they often went to class in dirty clothing, smelling of pigs. I mean, to be honest with you, like, yes, that's their fucking line of work. It's a farm. Of course. Now,
No
as a
need to
result,
get all upset over it,
just
Daryn. The F
saying.
word.
Now, well, I'm already upset for them. Now, as a result, Robert was unpopular as a kid and had a hard time making friends, and he eventually dropped out of school, which has got to be super tough. But at the same time, especially back in the day, when your family needs you to be working on the
Yeah, it's
farm, yes,
true.
they want you to get educated. Like, there is something about quitting school to go work full time. I mean, there is something sort of noble and also like survivalist about it that needs
And
to
I would
happen.
say it was a little more commonplace, I would say back
Definitely.
then, like,
Yes.
I think if you drop out of school now, like, they send CPS to the house and they wanna make
Right.
sure
Well, you're a
something isn't
drug addict.
wrong.
Right.
Right,
Exactly. Something. But this was sort
right,
of a necessary thing. Now, Robert's
right.
childhood was rough. His parents raised him to be extremely cold, forcing him to slaughter cows
Mm,
he raised from birth, which, yeah, like
I
even
could
if that
never.
is, I know people have animal rights and all these things. I'm just saying in general, this is sort of like, okay, cows do get slaughtered for meat. Like this is not something that people are unaware of. So it
Yeah.
almost feels like quote unquote a natural thing. But having to do it since if you were a kid would be gosh,
Well,
there's definitely unnaturalness about that.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, like children don't have the mental capacity to separate the emotional connection they have with raising animals and then having to slaughter them. Like, of course,
Right.
adults sometimes do. I don't even think all the time, but like, yeah, that's a lot for a child. I'll even say, I remember when I was younger, I grew up around farms. Like, we never lived on a farm, but I lived in rural Pennsylvania for a chunk of my childhood, and I remember, neighbors, hunting season comes around, deer get shot, killed, da
Sure.
da da, and I will never forget. I have this very vivid memory, and this is a little bit trigger warning if you're, an animal person, and I am an animal person, but just saying. I will never forget. Like it was like I was over at my neighbor's house, and like I was like playing with a kid in the yard or something. I was probably like 6 or 7, and we ran into like the basement to like go inside to get something to eat or something. And in the basement, the father was like butchering and whatever you call it, slaughtering a deer.
Oh.
And it and I saw it all. And it was like, so commonplace, especially for that type of like lifestyle, like that area, like everyone was hunting and what's the term? I don't know if butchering a deer is the right way to put it, but processing a deer?
No, I
Eh,
mean, yeah, I get, yeah,
yeah,
processing, I guess. Because
whatever.
I watch these shows on History Channel like Alone, and there is like a survivalist mentality. I mean, that is sort of the circle of life. That's what it's meant for. And a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
these
yeah.
survivalist people, not saying every hunter, but survivalist people use every inch of that deer and make
Right.
hats and you eat the organs and use the bones and do every single inch of
Yeah,
it and really like
resources, right?
yeah, exactly, and really like value it. But it's traumatizing to see
For a
that, I feel like, as
for
a
a
young
child, it was too
child.
much. Like, I'm even just telling you right now as I'm describing it to you, and I, like, remember the smell. Like, I'm having all kind. I know, it's really disturbing. Darren's, like, making faces, you guys,
It
if you're
kind
not
of
watching
reminds
on
me of
YouTube.
the Netflix show Dahmer, and this specific one, just because I think it was
Mm.
Dahmer, because he started with animals kind of first,
Yeah, that's
like
right.
doing that stuff, and just
Yeah.
the guts and the yeah,
Yeah.
not
I
a
mean,
fan.
listen, like I said, it was, like, legal hunting season in Pennsylvania, nothing to be concerned of, but,
Right.
just a lot for a 6 or 7-year-old who was probably
No,
playing Spice
absolutely.
Girls outside.
And certainly for Robert here too. I mean,
Yes.
so Robert's father Leonard eventually passed away in 1978, and followed by his wife a year later, and the three children inherited the farm. Linda never returned. Yeah, why would she? Instead,
Right.
marrying a businessman and building a life for herself in Vancouver. But
Mm.
Robert and David, the two boys, stayed to carry on the family farm, which turned out to be extremely lucrative.
I always wonder, we're gonna get into some of the numbers right now in a second, but, like, in modern day times, 2024, like, how much does it cost to run a farm? I'm sure someone out there is listening, probably baling hay as we talk right now and can tell us, but I'm so curious.
Yeah, I don't
The
know how much of
business.
it is a lucrative. Maybe the land is lucrative. I don't know how
Yeah.
lucrative it is, but with a name like Pickton,
Pickton
you
farm?
just
Yeah.
have to be a farmer. You
I
have to
agree.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Pickton farm was originally purchased in 1963 for roughly $18,000, which was quite a lot of money back then, actually. By 1994, it was worth roughly $7.2 million. Now,
Damn.
94 was what, 30 years ago?
Right.
Do I have my math right? Yes, 30 years ago. So I'm sure it's probably double, if not more than that now, given the way inflation has been
Yeah,
happening.
for sure.
Well, the brothers eventually sold the land. I would too if it was worth that much in 1994. Made a huge profit and bought another farm in an oddly remote area of the Vancouver suburbs.
Hmm.
This property was guarded by a boar who was actually trained to attack trespassers.
That's awesome.
Now what in the Simone and Pumbaa is this? How do you train a boar? How do they know how to train a boar? Some of the details we share in the show, I'm just truly like,
I wish Pumbaa
Who's
would
reporting on this?"
I wish Pumbaa would like attack
Oh, yeah.
me. I love him.
Oh, well, you don't want him to attack you, but I know what
Well,
you're
no, but
saying.
like
You're like, "If
cuddle,
I
like
go out,
attack
at
with
least
cuddles. Yeah, like a little of
attack
that.
attack with cuddles." Oh
Like
my
magic
god.
isn't a thin man, you know? But when
Oh,
he attacks
uh,
you, well, he's not.
oh, well, no.
He's
Listen,
got
by
some
the way,
beefs.
yeah,
He's got some beefs.
I
He's like a
talk
little
about
French dip.
I talk about his thickness on the show, and you always, yell at me for fat
Yeah, but
shaming
I
him.
can do it. But I can say it
Oh,
because,
you can? Okay. By the way,
well,
you're right. He's huge. He attacks me constantly. It's really getting
right.
crazy. I was in the shower last night and I was like looking at all the cuts on my hand just from him. And I will say I instigate it. I play with him. I know I shouldn't do it. It's fun. It's
Yeah,
therapeutic.
it's always going to be your fault.
It'll always be my fault. But anyway, nonetheless, I kind of have this with him too. Yeah, I've trained him to be a boar that attacks trespassers. But anyway, around this time, an increased number of women began to go missing around an area of Vancouver known as the downtown East Side. Almost had a
Huh.
1990 moment right there, if you
Yeah.
couldn't tell.
Downtown,
I was like
Charlie Brown.
Van Countown, Van Countown.
Van
Um,
Town.
I was like 4 words ahead of me here. Anyway, yeah, so
Yeah.
downtown East Side, women were going missing, and these women tended to be homeless or reside in low income housing. Often, of course, they were sex workers or heavy drug users. This was kind of par for the course for this type of thing, especially in the 90s. It was common for these women to simply vanish without a trace and never really showing up in other cities or, unfortunately, being found deceased.
Mm.
This phenomenon persisted over the course of years, yet authorities seemed indifferent to solving the problem, although no bodies indication of foul play or any physical evidence as to what may have befallen the women, it was likely tough to investigate. I
Yeah.
mean, that's true. I mean, we've talked on this show a few times, I think, over the course of the over the past several years about, police aren't really prioritizing the unhoused, the homeless, whatever the
Well,
term
because it's
is.
part of the quote unquote lifestyle of that,
Right.
right? Like they're just like, oh, well, they're nomadic, or of course they're putting themselves into danger. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why, but also, let's be frank, there's no body. So if people want to kind of
Yeah.
go missing or go into remote areas, like there's
What can they
also
do?
that too.
Yeah.
And having a body, I think, is going to really alert more people than simply, unfortunately, a wayward crowd if you're going to say like go missing. But yeah, it's still sort of tragic about that.
Yeah, and also, like, in the 90s at least, there weren't cell phones and digital
Right.
footprints to track people, so, like, when a homeless or unhoused person goes missing, what can a police department even do,
Right.
aside from, paper trail and investigating? Well, anyway, still flush from the sale of their farm, by the way, the brothers used a chunk of their money to begin a charity organization called the Piggy Palace Good Times Society. By
That
the
was
way,
that's the second name for our podcast. Can you believe it? What
are
are the
you
chances?
psychic? Daryn, that was my joke that I had in my
Stop.
head, and you literally just took that right out of my head. I
I'm
was gonna
so
be like,
sorry.
"No, no, no, no. I don't mean
Oh,
like you stole it.
you
You wouldn't have
bitch.
known.
Yeah,
It
he's
was
mouthing
yeah.
bitch to me. He smelled.
You
He said,
bitch.
yeah, bitch.
You stole my punchline. That is so funny. Yes, that was the name of our other
The
podcast.
Piggy
Do you
Palace.
remember
Good times.
do you remember us trying to come up with a name for this show? Do we ever talk about
Yes.
that?
Yes, I remember
Daryn and
where I
I
was. Yes, I remember.
you do remember where you were?
I
Daryn and
remember where
I
we were when we decided Shaken and Disturbed, but I
I do
remember we had
too.
been
I do
going
too.
back and forth for a while.
Yeah, we were going back and forth for a while. We couldn't land on something we felt really kind of worked for us. And then I think you had Shaken and Disturbed on email, like you sent an email about it, but then when we were talking on the phone, I heard you say it. And I was like, "Ooh, I like that. That sounds
Yeah.
good." It kind of plays off of our other show. So good job, Daryn. Yeah. You're like,
Oh,
I'll take 100% of the profits.
yeah. Nadine
Um,
thought of it, but I take credit.
oh, did she really?
Yeah, she was the one
Oh,
who's
I
like, "What
didn't know
about
that.
Shaken and Disturbed?" And I was like,
What?
"Yeah,
Fun fact, I did not realize that about her. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah."
Wow, I love her even more now. But
She's
anyway,
part of the Piggy Palace.
she is, in a sense, she is. That's right. Well, this nonprofit's stated cause was to produce events like social events, dances, shows, etc. Quote, on behalf of service organizations, sports organizations, and other worthy groups, end quote.
Hmm.
However, the events held by the charity were more akin to raves and were held in the farm's slaughterhouse. Now, listen, if you were telling me in rural, wait, where are they? I don't even remember where we said they
Vancouver,
were. Vancouver. And there was a rave at a bar, like a farm
a
slaughterhouse.
slaughterhouse.
I'm probably going to go to that. I'm probably going to go to
I
that.
probably wouldn't. That seems too
No?
scary. But this
Yeah.
does sound a little religious-y, how it's like, oh yeah, we're a nonprofit, like to produce
Yeah.
events
Tax.
like
Yeah.
worthy groups. I'm like, that seems way too
Yeah.
vague.
What's a worthy group
Right,
exactly?
exactly.
Yeah.
So while these raves are going on, these parties would often host as many as 2,000 locals, including gang members and sex workers and
Hmm.
children dressed in Halloween costumes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And maybe John Thrasher, had he been
Maybe.
invited at the time.
Listen, I never talked about it, but I went out on Pride weekend and I ended up at a rave and it was so fun. I haven't been
Can
to
you
one
can
in a
we
long
please talk
time.
about that on NMR? Like, can you
Maybe.
remind yourself? Well,
Maybe. You're like, you're like, what is this podcast without mentioning it? Okay. Yeah, maybe I will.
I want to
Listen, here's the
know.
thing. It's just like I live in a city. It's not the biggest city. If I say where I was, I don't want people showing
Okay,
up.
well, you can describe the rave.
That's true. I can
You
describe
don't
it.
have
All
to be
right.
like, it was in the McDonald's parking lot. We all know it was. Okay. Now
Wait a
the
minute. That's now you're talking. I'm like, McFlurry. Give me a
yeah, yeah.
McFlurry.
Give me
Yeah.
that salad,
Right.
dressing.
I'm like, give me that McDouble. I'm in assless chaps.
Yeah. Give me
Anyway.
that Big Mac, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the accounts of these parties that these
What are
people
we
go to,
doing?
not were something,
Yeah.
not John Thrasher's McDonald's raves. The
No.
accounts of these parties are extremely chaotic and involve lots
Mm.
of people wandering around in the poorly lit warehouses on the Pickton's property, getting drunk and doing drugs. Now, while that does sound fun to some extent,
It's a
I don't
recipe
know
for
how
disaster.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know how I feel about it. I want to be wandering around with these people in a poorly lit warehouse. Now, the refreshments served at these parties were mostly roast pork that people would just tear off and eat with their bare hands, like the fucking
The
medieval
pig
times. Like,
farm,
well,
though.
it is there. I mean, it makes sense that it's pork, but just like the savagery of
Oh, I
just
know.
grabbing meat with your hand and eating it.
Ugh, that's
Yeah.
disgusting. You know what it reminds me of? Like at Renaissance fairs and carnivals and stuff, those like big turkey legs
Yeah.
people
It's like you're
just
eating
buy
medieval
and
times and
eat.
they just walk around just like
No,
savages, just
no.
savagery.
Come on,
Now,
people.
the interesting thing here, this can't really be this was too long ago to really be verified, but there is a
Yeah.
rumor kind of going around that Gary Ridgway,
Yeah.
who's the Green River killer,
Right.
attended one of these Piggy Palace parties. And in 1997, Robert was arrested and charged with the attempted murder of Wendy Eistetter, a sex worker who
Oh.
attended one of the raves. According to Wendy, Robert handcuffed her and stabbed her repeatedly before
Ugh.
she was able to break free and escape. I don't even know how the hell you do that. But the charges against Robert were actually dismissed. One of the farm's other employees, Bill Hiscox, tough last name,
Yeah.
took note of the allegation. And Bill was among the workers who felt a little sus of Robert, and this accusation against his boss made him even more suspicious, essentially. So it was
Yeah.
sus on top of sus.
So
And
it's
over
like
the
a sussy radish cake, if you will.
exactly a parfait of sus.
Parfait.
Over the
Yes.
course of the next few years, Bill would periodically notice women go missing after visiting the
Mm,
farm. As the number of missing women grew, Bill became increasingly concerned and contacted the authorities. Of course, police knew of the sketchy goings on at the Pickton farm, but were
yeah.
unable to conduct a thorough investigation of the property without probable cause to do so.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that's really annoying, right? Because you're seeing a little bit of a pattern, right? People are showing up to this slaughterhouse rave, days or weeks go by, and then they go missing. And it's like the same process. And of course, there's nothing anybody can do because there's no evidence, there's no
Right.
crime being obviously committed. I think that this guy did the right thing by contacting the authorities, but listen, I won't get into the details, but I've called the police on situations that were happening in my world, and I know that's very vague, but that's intentional. Not to do with me or friend or anybody I know, but just things I've observed. Like, you see things out on the street or in a building or whatever. And, 9 times out of 10, there's not a single thing anybody can do because no crime has been committed yet. I'm like, is that the way this should work? Like if it's like a pattern or a behavior, but
Well, it's like stealing $1 from a wallet. It's like it's just a small amount where you're not necessarily going to notice. Like, did I have $8? Did I have $9? If you steal
right,
$400, people are going to notice. So, like,
right,
something subtly, especially in an environment under which we were just
right.
talking about, under which, yeah, people kind of go in and out. Like people are part of rave culture, then they kind of go out of rave culture, whatever it is,
Yeah,
especially sex workers or homeless
right.
people or whatever. But yeah, I think he did a right thing at least about clocking them and noting
Yeah,
it and having suspicion, but not necessarily jumping the gun, like waiting
right.
until enough kind of had happened.
Yeah, and not to belabor this, but how many times have we heard about, the woman in a relationship who tried to file a restraining order but
Right,
couldn't because she hadn't been hurt yet and then later gets murdered. It's like there
right.
has to be a way to figure this out from a sociology perspective, if nothing else. Well, anyway, in February of 2002, authorities were finally able to obtain a search warrant and raided the farm looking for illegal weapons. Instead, the search turned up something much more sinister: possessions belonging to a number of local women who had gone missing, including
Hmm.
clothing, handbags, and ID cards, and even teeth.
Ooh.
The Pickton farms contained a large number of meat freezers where they stored meat to sell to distributors.
Oh my god,
As
are they chopping up these women and fucking serving them to people?
You got it. As the search progressed to the freezers, it was not simply possessions that they began uncovering, but also body parts.
Mm.
Authorities discovered severed heads, hands, feet, and bones belonging to two women stored inside, all amongst the pig meat. Because remember, this is the piggy palace, if you will. A wood chipper was also found on site, containing an indeterminate amount of both human and pig DNA. This is
That's like the
getting
movie
really
Fargo
disturbing.
with Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although the majority of the investigation remains sealed, we know that in total, authorities were able to identify the remains of at least 33 women on the Picton farm. Robert was arrested immediately for the murders of the two dismembered women stored in the freezer. In custody, Robert confessed to his crimes on tape, and his story was even more gruesome than the investigators at the farm could have imagined. According to Robert, once he managed to overpower his victims, he would kill them in a variety of ways. Some were stabbed or bludgeoned to death, while others were injected with chemicals like antifreeze. Roberts would sometimes dispose of their bodies by depositing them into the wood chipper, grinding them up, and disgustingly feeding them to the pigs.
Which, pigs are known to eat anything. They will eat
Yes,
anything. It's been
exactly.
sort of a topic in some murder mysteries where it's like, yeah, you feed it
Right.
to the pigs just because they'll eat anything.
Yeah, it's unsettling in this regard.
Yeah.
Other times, he would simply bring the bodies to a nearby meat processing plant with his slaughtered pigs. Health officials immediately issued a warning that pork
Yeah.
products distributed by Pickton may have been contaminated with human remains. Yeah, good thing they got on top of that.
Could you imagine being like, "Oh, we just had some Picton sausage." Did we?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what now?
That's gotta be horrible.
Yeah, it's
You've seen fried
disgusting.
green tomatoes, right?
Like a long time ago. Oh, but
Okay. Secrets in the sauce.
yeah, this, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's very similar in that way. Well, by the end of
Right.
this investigation, police were able to charge Robert with a total of 26 counts of
Good.
murders. However, the Crown ultimately decided to not only bring the six most winnable cases to trial, as they were concerned that the jury would have a hard time absorbing and discussing the details of
Yeah.
26 counts.
Oh, by
During
the way,
trial,
the crown here, just to clarify for everybody, the crown being, of course, like the government that is controlling things, because this is
yeah.
Vancouver. Yeah. Just so we're aware.
Well, during trial, Robert was placed inside a bulletproof glass box for his own protection. The jury found Robert guilty, and the court sentenced him to the maximum allowable sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. The 20
Mm,
other murder charges against Robert were dropped, as Canada does not allow additional time to be added on to a maximum sentence. Big difference between here and the United States.
yeah, right.
The actual number of murders that took place in the farm kind of remains unknown to this day. However, the
Right.
prosecution has stated that while in prison, Robert spoke to an undercover police officer, bragging that he had murdered a total of 49 women and disappointed that he couldn't, quote, make it to an even 50.
Yeah, so just a really despicable human being here. Shortly after the goings on at the farm came to light, the controversial animal rights group PETA made reference to the Picton pork farm in one of their advertising campaigns, actually. The ad, which ran in Canada, featured images of a pig and a woman with the slogan, "Neither of us is meat."
Jesus.
This is much tamer than the original ad that's slated to run in the province. This version featured the same images with copy that read, quote, "They were drugged and dragged across the room. Their struggles and cries went unanswered. They were slaughtered and their heads were sawed off, their body parts
Jesus.
refrigerated and their bones discarded. It's still going on. Please remember that this scenario is a reality for more than 640 million sensitive individuals who lose their lives every year in this country for nothing more than the taste of their meat." Which of course is, was this ad was the point of this ad was to highlight the fact that the people who ate Picton pork likely consumed human flesh without noticing a difference.
Yes, and
You
obviously those
know,
people are just as bad. I mean, I'm not a fan of PETA. I get it. I got it. I got it.
yeah,
I
you
think
got
we're
that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got that message. Okay, good. All right, let's
I
move
think
on
I
from
got it.
this.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
got it.
I
Yeah.
feel like we need to add something at the top of the show that's like, do not listen to this over dinner or
While eating.
lunch. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, the
Yeah.
investigation of the Picton farm has been the largest serial killer investigation in Canada's history. On May 21st of this year, just about a month and a half ago, 74-year-old Robert was actually injured in a major assault while in prison and sent to a hospital in Quebec to be treated for life-threatening injuries. Sounds like some sort of
Wow.
prison brawl. As of today, Robert is actually in a coma and his fate remains uncertain. Of course, we're kind of keeping an eye on this. Megan, of course, is as well. We're going to update this case if anything changes. If not on the regular show, on our NMR. Another reason to tune into NMR. But yeah, Darren, I had heard about this case before. It's just always unsettling. I almost wonder if we even did this on Martinis and Murder at some point. But it's one of those ones that's classic, if you will, in like all of the worst possible ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's also happened in Canada. I feel like not a lot of people are
Yeah,
it does seem sort of like the start of every horror movie. Like this is
it
based on
really
everything,
does. Yeah,
Chainsaw Massacre, shit like that.
right.
Like
Right.
whatever, but it does seem like the start of that. But just, yeah, gruesome and terrible. And, this is what I'm saying. Don't go to raves, people.
Don't go to raves. Well, I am
Don't
guilty
go to
of that.
raves.
So maybe on a future NMR, I
Ow,
got lucky
ow.
and didn't end up as a victim here, but my God, it's just horrible. Well, let us know what you guys think about this week's quick little episode. We want to make sure you guys got something this week for 4th of July while we take a little bit of a break as well. Hit us
Yes,
up at
happy belated fourth. Sorry.
That's right. Hit us up at Thrasher at Carp Daryn. Message us on Patreon if you're a patron at any level. DM us. We're gonna get right back to you. And hit us up on our Facebook group.
That's right. Can we get to a listener
Yeah.
shout out that I
Yeah,
really
let's do one.
liked?
Yeah, go ahead.
Patreon Sushi Radish Roxana commented on a recent episode, The Dixmoor Disaster, saying, quote, "This is such a good case. I live in Chicago and had not heard of this case. Great job telling us the story and making us aware of this." So you are welcome. Yeah, it was a really horrible. So
Yeah, that
glad
was
you're aware of it.
one little bit of a cold case on that one. So we
Yeah.
love to hear that somebody in that area heard about it. That's always good news. And lastly, if you're traveling back from 4th of July vacation as you listen to this, please be safe.
Yes, I hope you're having a hot dog and a burger. Well, actually, after this
Mm,
case, I hope you're having
don't have a hot dog.
just chips
No.
and salsa, just chips and
May-
salsa.
Maybe skip the yeah, chips and salsa, chips and
Just chips and
salsa.
salsa, guys. And while
Yeah.
you're having those chips and salsa, of course, please subscribe to Patreon, where we have all kind of fun content and early access. We really love putting stuff up there that no one else can
Yeah.
get. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button up here and all those good things.
Yeah,
Look at
lots
my
of good
little
stuff
hand.
go absolutely, Darren's little hands. And subscribe on Patreon for as little as $5 a month or even cheaper if you sign up annually.
That's right.
Daryn, it was good to get an episode in this week. We'll be back with new episodes, of course, coming soon. We'll do another NMR. Maybe I'll talk about my raves.
I want to
I
hear it.
don't know. I don't know. And lastly, I'm just gonna sign off and say, guys, don't forget, even during the vacation and during winter break, 4th of July break, to take your vitamins.
Maybe the piggy palace can come on camera next time and you can show off his little piglets.
Are you talking
And
about
speaking of
magic?
which,
Because that's not
yeah,
funny.
yeah, I
Wow.
am. He's my little piggy
Oh,
palace.
oh, okay.
Guys, check your pits, especially on the 4th. It's hot in July, and especially if you have a little peenie,
Oh
a
my
piglet peenie.
God. Oh
Okay.
my God. All right. See you guys
You
next
love me.
time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.